fact, let's talk about Nevada real quickly. They had record early voting. 57,000 people showed up in Clark County alone.
Yeah, one-day record.
In one day. And it had previously been 48,000. So obviously a lot of interest in making sure that people get out there and they get their voices heard. We're just going to have to wait a couple of days here. Everybody's a little on edge. But wait a couple of days for what the final product will be. But that also brings us to how do you get to 270?
What's the strategy here in the last 3 days? As we see the end of early votings in some states, we see the last day in North Carolina. Georgia wrapped up yesterday, which surprisingly is a battleground this time around. Let's bring in our panel to discuss. Joining us now, Angela Rye, CNN political commentator and former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus, Hillary Clinton supporter. Jack Kingston, a senior advisor to the Trump campaign, speaking of Georgia, former Georgia congressman. And finally, Jason Johnson, politics editor for TheRoot.com and political science professor at Morgan State University. Good morning to all.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
Congressman, I want to start with you and what we're hearing from Donald Trump this morning. Brand new out today, delivering the weekly Republican address. And this is what he said about Hillary Clinton. Let's watch.
Hillary Clinton is the most corrupt person ever to seek the presidency of the United States. And if she were to win, it would create a constitutional crisis like no other. She is under multiple federal investigations, has committed many crimes, including perjury, and she is now facing the prospect of a federal indictment.
All right, so wrapping up there, this case that he's making with the prospect of a federal indictment. That reporting coming from Brett Baer of Fox News, who has not just walked it back some, but has apologized for using the term. Is this going to be Donald Trump's message, although the person or the entity he's relying upon has said it was improper to use that term?
I don't think this is going to be his closing message.
He's got 3 days. I mean, this is essentially the closing message, right?
Well, it's one of his messages that you have somebody who is under federal indictment, and there's all kinds of clouds and questions as to which direction that which way that investigation may end up going, because you have the Clinton Foundation, you have the pay-for-play allegations, you have the fact that her great close ally, the governor of Virginia, has taken some Chinese money, and some of that money found its way into the hands of a Democrat candidate.
But what does that have to do with Hillary Clinton?
Because she's tied into it because they were a contributor to the PAC, and he was on the board of the Clinton Foundation. And that actually, Victor, is very important. It's a very, very tangled web on how all of this unwinds. Philip Raines, whose name isn't a household name, he was on the foundation. He was a deputy the Secretary of State under Hillary Clinton. He's being investigated.
Okay, listen. Both of these are competent.
I got to respond to this.
And as long as we're talking about this, is a good thing.
Jason, go ahead, and then Angela.
As the non-affiliated voter here, can I just say, in all due respect, no one cares about that at this point. I mean, in all honesty,
I wasn't the one that brought it up. I was the one that brought it up.
But if Republican voters care about this sort of thing, and it'll keep them enthusiastic, it's not going to change anybody's mind. The most important issues these last 3 or 4 days, as Hillary makes her case, as Donald Trump makes her case, is voter suppression and making sure that people can get out. That is the primary focus of both these campaigns. They can talk all they want, but if they can't get people to the polls for this early voting this weekend and next Tuesday, it doesn't matter.
So let me go back to what you said. I think it's really important that we start doing an apples-to-apples comparison. So you want to talk about tangled webs? Let me give you a really good one. Paul Manafort potentially under investigation.
Working with Tony Podesta.
I'm not. So I did not.
Sure you can't.
Let her finish.
I did not. So I'm going to create the same kind of web that you created. It's a very treacherous and tangential web, but I'm going to create one for you. Paul Manafort. I give you Roger Stone, who called hosts and commentators on this air things that are normally associated with racial epithets. Someone who has created all types of scenarios and conspiracy theories that have driven Donald Trump's base. Some of the folks who I still think are in the basket of deplorables, frankly. I think the other issue you have is Roger Ailes. Megyn Kelly comes out and talks about her sexual harassment issues with Roger Ailes. He is a chief advisor to Donald Trump. I give you Steve Bannon, someone who has created conspiracy theories that are worse than what's in the National Enquirer, and has used racial rhetoric to gin up Donald Trump's base.
But just as Jason said that people are not going to be voting on what Jack Kingston offered, or is anybody going to be voting based on what you're offering?
No, but my point is, at some point we have to start comparing apples to apples. You cannot continue to make it seem like these are Hillary Clinton's issues. When you can't continue to say these are Hillary Clinton's issues when they're not, and you all will distance Donald Trump from the very same. It's ridiculous.
Donald Trump's campaign Clinton is not under the federal investigation that Hillary Clinton
Neither is. No, it's not.
And I am a little bit bothered that you are still calling our supporters deplorable.
I am calling half of them or more deplorable.
Okay. Here we are in the home stretch.
Racism, bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia.
Here we are in
that
the home
is
stretch.
deplorable.
I just want to make the point. Here we are in the home stretch. You're still calling our supporters racist
some
and
of them,
deplorable.
absolutely.
And
your
that's
candidate.
the message of a woman who's been Secretary
And your vice
of State,
presidential candidate
First
is
Lady,
homophobic.
and in the U.S. Senate, and doesn't have anything to talk about in terms of.
Hold on for a second, because we've got the vice presidential nominee for the Republicans who's speaking right now. Governor Pence is speaking. Let's dip into that.
It's the direction of this country. I mean, when I think of this. When I think of these times in which we live, I don't think of it as even a choice between left and right or Republican and Democrat. I think of it the way Ronald Reagan described it years ago. He said it's a choice between up and down. And when you talk to your neighbors and friends, you might think about talking about it that way. Here it is. Whether we're going to continue to go down the hill to a weaker America on the world stage, a more stifled American economy, under the weight of more taxes, more regulation, more Obamacare, and trade deals that are shedding jobs all over the world, and America walking farther and farther away from our most cherished constitutional ideals, or whether we're going to stop, plant our feet, turn around, and march back up the hill to a stronger America and home
there in Holland, Michigan, speaking to a crowd there. Jason, let me come back to you, because what we're hearing here is possibly what we're seeing in this ABC News Washington Post poll, that Donald Trump is bringing some of, as Governor Pence would characterize it, some of the Republicans home. He's now up to 88% of Republican support. He was at 82% back on October 19th at the last poll. Still not, though, where Mitt Romney was 4 years ago at 93%.
Right. Look, if you're still sending flowers 24 hours before Valentine's Day, you're in trouble, right? And that's essentially what's happening with Donald Trump. He should be at 90-something%. He is the Republican nominee and has been the Republican nominee for months. But here's more key, and I think it's really interesting. You see where the VP candidate is. He's in Michigan. That is the last-ditch effort for the Trump campaign. If Donald Trump cannot flip a solidly blue state, he can't win. And Michigan doesn't have early voting. So you're going to see this as a state where you have Mike Pence, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and President Barack Obama are all going to be campaigning in the next couple of days. It's very, very crucial for every single campaign right now.
Yeah, one of the changes in our map, you've got New Hampshire now that is a battleground, which may be good news for Donald Trump, but not so much for Kelly Ayotte. Does she want the campaign back in New Hampshire?
I think Kelly Ayotte has been kind of in there and out of there, in there and out of there. It's going to be difficult to her until 7 o'clock on Tuesday night when the polls close. But here's what's very interesting is that we're going in, the momentum has changed. We had an 11 or 12% deficit 2 weeks ago. Now it's a cliffhanger. Everybody associated with Clinton are all in the swing states. We're in the swing states too. I think the three of us would absolutely agree. Everybody is everywhere they can be. Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, trying to find that we want to flip a blue state. Absolutely. We're going to talk about Obamacare. We're going to talk about a plan to turn the economy around. We're going to talk about jobs. We are going to talk about the FBI, but that is not the closing message of our team. Now, what I do here, Angela, which really does bother me, is I hear a lot of racial baiting in the usual Democrat
that's
playbook.
not what I'm doing.
Not from you, not from
okay.
you. But
you said Angela, so that's what I thought. Right? That's reasonable, right? Like Angela.
Well,
you
were looking at me.
You're talking, Congressman.
I felt the love.
You were looking at me.
I thought I was listening.
Nothing but diversity.
And this isn't a scale. The lights are red, right?
I just want to know which half am I on, the deplorable or the non-deplorable?
It depends on what you say.
Okay, well, listen, depending on what somebody says, Donald Trump is at the microphone. Let's listen to what he has to say.
We do it the old-fashioned way. We do it the old-fashioned way, folks. We fill them up because you love what we're saying and you want to make America great again. That's about it. And I actually like Jay-Z, but you know the language last night. Oh. I was thinking, maybe I'll just try it. Should I use that language for one of that? Can you imagine if I said that? So he used every word in the book. I won't even use the initials because I'll get in trouble. They'll get me in trouble. He used every word in the book last night. And by the way, in Hershey, Pennsylvania, last night, we had an arena. We had 27,000 people show up. Maybe they couldn't get in. Far more than Jay-Z had with their free tickets. Free tickets. Far more. And Beyonce. And I like them both. But he used language last night that was so bad. And then Hillary said, I did not like Donald Trump's lewd language. My lewd language. I tell you what, I've never said what he said in my life. But that shows you the phoniness of politicians and the phoniness of the whole system, folks. In 3 days, we are going to win the great state of Florida, and we are going to win back the White House. Real change begins with immediately repealing and replacing Obamacare. It's just been announced that the residents of Florida, I'm sorry to tell you this, are going to experience a massive double-digit premium hike. And I know what it is. I say this to everybody. I know. I just don't want to destroy the spirit in the room. It's going to be a massive hike. So congratulations. It's not going to matter because if we win, I'm throwing it out anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But get ready. You're going to have a big, big, big hike. Hopefully it won't make a damn bit of difference. In the great state of Arizona, where I was just a couple of days ago and where I'm going, premiums are going up by more than 116%. Going to go higher than that. Over 90% of the counties in Florida are losing Obamacare insurer. And think of it, they're losing their insurers. Over 90% of the counties. And remember, and most of you were there, almost all of you felt this whole movement right from the beginning when we came down for the primaries, right? We won 66 out of 67 counties. 66 out of 6. Florida is just a place I love. My second home. I'm here all the time.